I don't do the Breakfast Club because Charlamagne is shameless. That is true. I don't have any shame, even though in this internet era, they still use it against me. But who cares, okay? Yes, I am shameless because I have nothing to be ashamed about. I'm a damaged individual, all right? Who is currently in therapy to work on my damage, okay? What?
Beneath his chosen identity as the most ruthless man in the rap community, Charlamagne the God has endured some of the darkest periods of his life. These experiences shaped the ruthless personality we see today. Behind every word and sentence spoken with the intent to embarrass his guests is a man dealing with severe psychological issues.
I was losing myself because you got to think, I'm still in survival mode. I'm still coming off being fired 4 times. You got to think what my journey was from 1998 up until that moment. Up until that moment, I'm just coming out of my mom's house, living with my mom in Moncks Corner, South Carolina. Like I just collected my last unemployment check, right?
So you can't chill.
Nah, I'm scared to death. Everything that you saw was me, was rooted in fear. It was rooted in, I'm not going back to that. So whatever I have to do to not go back to that, I'm going to do. That's why you see the ruthless, anybody can get it. You know, it's still a lot of pain there that I'm probably projecting on the other people. There's still a lot of hurt there that I'm projecting on the other people. Plus, y'all done tried to fire me out of this business 4 different times. Y'all thought it was sweet when I was down in Moncks Corner, South Carolina, living back home with my mom. Now all of y'all gotta feel my wrath. Like literally, that's what I was on.
This is the dark psychology of Charlamagne the God. Charlamagne the God is one of the biggest names in media today. In an era where many are moving on from radio, he still managed to make a name for himself in the industry. Despite being fired 4 times, he earned a cosign from one of the biggest figures in media.
I've been a fan of yours for a while. I think you're the last great radio host, and you will be the last famous radio host, because I think radio is a dying thing. You're the last great one. You're the one who made it famous from radio. Who the fuck else?
Yeah.
In this era?
However, while many praised him, others became victims of his underlying psychological struggles. In 2020, Logic decided to end his career and retire from the rap industry, officially announcing my retirement with the release of No Pressure Executive produced by No ID, July 24th. It's been a great decade. Now it's time to be a great father. While there are numerous reasons for his decision, it's undeniable that the constant bullying from Charlamagne the God accelerated it. Among all the guests on The Breakfast Club, Logic faced some of the most ruthless personal questions from Charlamagne, who seemed intent on making Logic slip up for clicks. You might have thought it couldn't get any worse, but nothing could be further from the truth. About a year later, Charlamagne went on to accuse Logic of being homophobic, fully aware of the implications of such an accusation in this day and age.
Now, I saw you do an interview with Vlad TV, and you said that it would be very uncomfortable for you to listen to a gay rapper talking about kissing a dude.
Did I say that?
I don't know.
Did I say?
Unlike the initial situation, Logic took offense to this accusation. He went on to address it in one of his songs titled Clickbait. He rapped, "I don't do the Breakfast Club cause Charlamagne is shameless. That's the only one I leave out when I run my bases. Do your research before you call somebody homophobic. You make a living off of controversy and you know it." As you might expect, Charlamagne did not take it lightly as he took to his radio program at the time, Donkey of the Day, to address the Logic song, and boy oh boy, it was brutal.
Our here today for Friday, May 10th goes to a young biracial rapper named Sir Robert Bryson Hall II, known to the world as Logic. I don't have anything against Logic. I don't know Logic personally, met him a couple times when he came to the Breakfast Club. Don't listen to his music. Don't find him appealing. In fact, I am so committed to not listening to Logic that he once put my favorite hip-hop group of all time, Wu-Tang Clan, on the record, and I did not listen. Not saying that I wouldn't listen, just saying I'm not searching the name Logic or any of his music in my title app in order for that song to pop up on my playlist. Now, I don't check for him, okay? I don't know about any of his albums. I just know that he put out an album yesterday called Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. Did y'all know that?
No.
Yeah, I would have never known either if he hadn't have mentioned The Breakfast Club or me on the album. But I don't know what the point of being on a major label is if they're not going to promote your music. No diss to Def Jam, but, well, let me ask this a different way. Does Def Jam not promote their artists anymore, or they just don't care about Logic enough to promote him? Because I had no idea he had an album coming up.
But Logic's last album did pretty well, too.
All his albums are good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, I don't run in Logic circles. I'm not around people who listen to Logic, so maybe I'm just out the loop. But he did drop a project yesterday, and he has a song on his album called Clickbait. Now, I can't believe I'm falling for this, but it's Friday, so let's have some fun.
Wow.
Let me be the first to tell you. I don't know what the hell Logic is talking about, all right? I don't do The Breakfast Club because Charlamagne is shameless. That is true. I don't have any shame, and that's because I embrace the good, the bad, and the ugly about my life. I live my truth so nobody can use it against me, even though in this internet era, they still use it against me. But who cares, okay? Yes, I am shameless because I have nothing to be ashamed about. I'm a damaged individual, all right? Who is currently in therapy to work on my damage, okay? What? Now, let's talk about you not doing The Breakfast Club. Logic, I can assure you, all right, that nobody in this room has ever said, man, you know who doesn't come up here? Logic. Have you ever gotten a request from a listener who wanted Logic on the show?
No.
Exactly. Nobody calls up here and requests your music, okay? Clearly you are thinking about us more than we have ever thought about you, because clearly you have to tell your team, nah, I'm not doing The Breakfast Club for X, Y, and Z reasons. But I've never had to explain to anyone or been asked why hasn't Logic been on the show. And that's not a diss. I'm just telling you, nobody cares.
Charlamagne's behavior was bizarre and sadistic. He seemed to derive pleasure from causing pain. In psychology, sadism refers to obtaining pleasure from hurting others and making them suffer physically or mentally. Even when it was clear that Logic had enough, Charlamagne continued to belittle him. The saddest part is that Logic was dealing with personal problems at the time, but Charlamagne didn't care. Logic later discussed how the situation affected him. The reason for this video is to explore the logic behind Charlamagne's behavior. No pun intended.
I believe in happy accidents.
If you're familiar with Charlamagne, you'll realize that Logic is not the only one he's had problems with. Almost all his guests have faced bizarre questions. From Kanye West, Lil Mama, Post Malone, and Machine Gun Kelly to Safari, everyone has had their fair share of the Charlamagne experience. However, with so many people as his victims, it begs the question, was he doing this on purpose, or did he have a reason for embarrassing them? Hold on to that thought and don't judge him yet. We are about to dive into his story, and most importantly, the reasons behind his behavior. In a recent interview with Stephen Bartlett on the Diary of a CEO podcast, Charlamagne gave us a window into his life and some of the darkest experiences he had to deal with growing up.
8 years old, your cousin's ex-wife had a sexual encounter with you.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about these sexual encounters changing your personality.
You don't even realize that it's molestation till you get older. Well, at least I didn't realize it until I got older. And I was like, oh, I was getting molested. And then when you start going to therapy and you start peeling back, the layers of that trauma, you start realizing, oh, this is why I am the way I am in regards to pleasing people. Because I felt like even though what she was doing to me was wrong and it made me uncomfortable and I didn't like it, I had to keep doing it so she'd stop calling me ugly. I was just a young kid and I was molested. Ooh, shit.
Charlamagne's character changed after he was sexually harassed by an older woman when he was young. As for why he's been a villain on The Breakfast Club all these years, Charlamagne explained that he had been fired from 4 different jobs and had to live with his mother in a trailer in South Carolina. When he finally got the gig at The Breakfast Club, he decided he didn't want to go back to living like that, so his ruthlessness became a survival tactic.
I was losing myself. Because you got to think, I'm still in survival mode. I'm still coming off being fired 4 times. You got to think what my journey was from 1998 up until that moment. Up until that moment, I'm just coming out of my mom's house, living with my mom in Moncks Corner, South Carolina. Like I just collected my last unemployment check, right?
So you can't chill.
Nah, I'm scared to death. Everything that you saw was me was rooted in fear. It was rooted in, I'm not going back to that. So whatever I have to do to not go back to that, I'm going to do. That's why you see the ruthless, anybody can get it, You know, it's still a lot of pain there that I'm probably projecting on the other people. There's still a lot of hurt there that I'm projecting on the other people. Plus, y'all done tried to fire me out of this business 4 different times. Y'all thought it was sweet when I was down in Moncks Corner, South Carolina, living back home with my mom. Now all of y'all gotta feel my wrath.
These experiences shape the heartless persona you see today. That's why I'm here to remind you. Before you judge, listen to their story first. This isn't to justify what Charlamagne has put some of his guests through, as much of his behavior can genuinely affect the mental health of these individuals. However, it's clear where the issues originated. In a world where hurt people hurt others, it's reassuring that he's now in therapy to address his issues.